The scene opens inside the rusted, iron-plated captain's quarters of the Chernobyl, a massive, coal-stained icebreaker docked in a frozen, industrial Siberian port town. It is 3:00 p.m., but the Arctic winter has already plunged the world into a freezing, gray twilight. Heavy snow lashes against the thick porthole glass. Sitting at a bolted steel desk is Maksim, a physically intimidating 54-year-old cargo captain. He is a mountain of a man, wearing a heavy, oil-stained naval coat with faded military honors visible on the collar, remnants of a dark, violent past in special operations. His face is weathered by sea salt and frostbite, featuring a jagged scar across his jaw and massive, calloused hands. Maxim is a man who speaks only in grunts, hardened by decades of isolation, grief, and brutal maritime life. He wants nothing to do with humanity. He only wants the quiet numbing of his cheap vodka and the howling of the wind. The heavy, pressurized iron door of the ship's lower deck is violently thrown open, howling wind and snow swirling into the corridor. The sudden intrusion alarms Yuri, the grizzled chief engineer, and Boris, a towering, fiercely loyal deckhand who is greasing gears nearby. Sprinting down the narrow, iron-grated hallway on all fours like a hunted animal is a frantic, terrified young girl, no older than 7. She is wearing nothing but a tattered, oversized canvas jacket, soaked through with freezing slush. Her face is pale from the biting cold, save for a stark, dark purple bruise across her collarbone. She is shaking so violently her teeth click audibly against the silence of the steel ship. Ignoring the shouting deckhands, the young girl bursts directly into Maxim's cabin. Driven by pure survival instinct, she doesn't run from the giant man. She dives directly under his heavy steel desk, curling into a tight, shivering ball against his heavy leather boots. Maxim's immediate response is a low, territorial growl. In this lawless, corporate-owned port, harbor police and port authorities are corrupt. Bringing a runaway child onto his ship risks a lockdown, heavy fines, or a raid on his unregistered cargo. It is a massive liability. But as he looks down, the young girl reaches out with freezing, purple-tinted fingers and tightly grips the thick wool of Maxim's trousers. Her chest heaves with the metallic scent of pure terror. She has chosen the most dangerous man in the port as her shield. The heavy silence is shattered by heavy, rhythmic bootsteps on the iron gangplank outside. A sleek, expensive fur coat cuts through the snowstorm. It is Nikolai, a notorious and wealthy local syndicate boss who controls the port's black market and human trafficking rings. He is flanked by 2 armed thugs. Nikolai steps onto the deck, breathing out plumes of vapor, casually asking if anyone has seen a valuable little runaway wearing a gray canvas jacket. Under the desk, the young girl's trembling intensifies so heavily that Maxim can feel the vibration shaking his own boots. A deep, long-dormant protective instinct stirs beneath the captain's scarred chest. Nikolai's polite, elitist arrogance is met with ice-cold indifference from Boris and Yuri, who block the cabin companionway with heavy wrenches in hand. Nikolai grows impatient, tapping a gold ring against the ship's iron railing and demanding to search the vessel. He reminds the crew that he owns the docks and the local police. Maxim finally stands up, filling the doorway of his cabin, his massive frame completely blocking the light. In a voice like grinding stones, he delivers a flat, emotionless denial. Nikolai threatens to bring force to search the Chernobyl. The atmosphere turns lethal. Boris and Yuri subtly shift their weight, their nonverbal cues signaling they are entirely prepared to throw Nikolai's men into the freezing black ocean. The crew guards their ship's sovereignty with absolute ferocity. Maxim doesn't argue. He simply stares directly into Nikolai's eyes and counts down from 5. His terrifyingly calm demeanor, backed by his legendary reputation as an ex-soldier who fears nothing, breaks Nikolai's confidence. Realizing a physical fight on the captain's own vessel would be suicide, Nikolai spits into the snow, delivering a venomous warning that he will watch the docks before retreating back down the gangplank. The crew returns to their posts, leaving the captain's quarters in total silence, granting Maxim the privacy to handle the volatile situation. Under the desk, the girl remains frozen in trauma. Maxim kneels down, a painful motion for his battered knees, and utters two words in a gruff but quiet tone. He left. The young girl refuses to move, her eyes wide with deep-seated distrust. Slowly, deliberately, Maxim extends his massive, scarred, ink-tattooed hand, palm up, leaving it perfectly still on the iron floor. It is a silent, unthreatening invitation. After a long, agonized minute of tension, the girl timidly reaches out and places her tiny, ice-cold hand into his massive palm. He gently guides her out from under the steel desk and places her onto his heavy leather bench. Maxim barks an order down the compipe to the galley. Minutes later, Yuri brings up a heavy metal tray, a steaming bowl of thick potato broth, dense black rye bread, and hot tea sweetened with condensed milk. The young girl attacks the food with primal, heartbreaking desperation, burning her tongue but refusing to stop, stuffing the bread into her mouth with both hands. Maxim sits across from her, silently watching. He recognizes that mechanical, frenzied eating. It is the survival mode of a child who has known prolonged starvation and captivity. When the bowl is scraped clean, Maxim asks for her name. "Anya," she whispers, barely audible over the hum of the ship's generator. Through hesitant, broken sentences, Anya reveals that Nikolai is not her father, but a man who bought her from an orphanage to work in his illegal mainland operations. The purple bruise on her neck was from his heavy rings when she tried to escape the previous night. Maxim's internal code, the ancient, unspoken law of the sea that demands the protection of the helpless, clashes heavily with his practical criminal reality. He is an outlaw captain, but he is not a monster. Maxim faces a brutal dilemma. He cannot call the port authorities. They are on Nikolai's payroll and would sell Anya back within the hour. If he keeps her aboard, he risks his entire ship, his crew's freedom, and a bloody war with the city's most powerful syndicate. Suddenly, the cabin door swings open. It is Ivan, the ship's pragmatic first mate, along with 3 young deckhands. Ivan has heard the rumors. He immediately confronts Maxim, furious and terrified. He views Anya as a death sentence for the ship's smuggling operations and demands she be left on the pier before morning. Maxim stands, towering over his first mate. He outlines exactly what Nikolai will do to the child if she is thrown onto that frozen concrete pier. It is a direct challenge to the ship's hierarchy. The tension inside the iron room is thick enough to cut. The younger deckhands look at the floor, secretly ashamed but terrified of the syndicate. Maxim locks eyes with Ivan and states that his word is law on the Chernobyl. If Ivan wishes to contest it, he can try to take the captain's cap right now. Ivan backs down, muttering a dark warning that the consequences of this girl's presence will be paid in blood, and Maxim will be the one to bleed first. Anya, terrified by the shouting, curls into a ball on the leather bench, weeping silently. Maxim walks over and with awkward gentleness places his massive, rough hand on her matted hair, smoothing it down. The atmosphere on the ship heavy shifts. The crew establishes a silent quarantine. No one approaches the captain's quarters, creating a protective perimeter around the child. Maxim fetches a clean, wet cloth and gently dabs the frostbite and bruising on Anya's face. As he works, Anya opens up further, her voice trembling. She explains that she finally ran because Nikolai's men had taken away the only thing she owned, a pair of bright pink, hand-knit mittens her late mother had made for her. When she cried, they struck her. Hearing this minor, cruel detail breaks something inside the hardened captain. The cold indifference he used to shield himself from the world shatters completely. Looking into Anya's tear-stained eyes, the giant captain makes a solemn, terrifying promise. On this ship, no hand will ever raise against you again. Sleep. He accepts total responsibility for the storm that is about to hit them. As midnight approaches, Anya succumbs to pure emotional and physical exhaustion, falling into a deep sleep on the bench. Knowing the cabin is too visible from the deck windows, Maxim carefully lifts her. She feels as light as a feather in his massive arms. He carries her deep into the bowels of the ship, into the secure, hidden radio room, a Spartan but warm, hidden vault. He covers her with a heavy wool military blanket, leaving the door unlocked so she never feels like a prisoner. Outside the radio room, Ivan confronts Maxim again, mocking his sudden paternal instinct and warning him that Nikolai's scouts are already circling the perimeter of the pier on snowmobiles. Maxim remains dead silent, his eyes flashing with a lethal calmness that causes Ivan to step back, realizing the captain is fully prepared to kill to keep this child safe. Unable to rest, Maxim grabs a heavy iron flashlight and steps out into the blinding, sub-zero blizzard. He patrols the snow-covered decks and the dark perimeter of the pier. The industrial port is a graveyard of rusted metal and deep shadows. His military training keeps his senses hyper-alert. Near the shadow of the ship's massive rudder, a figure emerges from the blizzard clutching a crowbar. It is one of Nikolai's lead enforcers, scouting an entry point to kidnap the girl. Before the thug can react, Maxim moves with terrifying, explosive military speed. He slams the man against the rusted hull, his massive hand crushing the man's throat, cutting off his air. With a low, monstrous whisper, Maxim presses the freezing iron flashlight against the man's temple, delivering a chilling message. Tell Nikolai that if any man steps onto this ship again, they will not find a girl. They will find me, and I do not take prisoners. Maxim drops the terrified, gasping enforcer into the snow, watching him crawl away into the dark blizzard. The immediate scout threat is neutralized, but Maxim knows the true war will begin when the ice thaws and the ship tries to leave port. The next morning, the ship's engines thrum to life, vibrating through the steel floors. The crew is quiet, tense, and waiting. Anya emerges from the lower decks, wrapped tightly in the oversized gray military blanket, looking exhausted but no longer panicked. Yuri, the engineer, without a word, walks into the quarters and sets down a massive breakfast tray. Hot oatmeal with condensed milk, fried sausages, and fresh bread. Anya looks at Yuri, then at Maxim. Maxim gives a single, slow nod. She sits and begins to eat, no longer inhaling the food in fear, but chewing slowly, realizing that for the first time in her life, she is surrounded by walls of iron and men who will fight for her. Maxim tells her quietly that the bad men came last night, and they learned their lesson. They will not be coming back. A fragile, beautiful smile touches Anya's face. She reaches her tiny hand across the steel table and places it directly over the faded Spetsnaz anchor tattoo on Maxim's massive forearm. Outside the frosted port window, the Siberian harbor is cold, corrupt, and vicious. But inside the iron hull of the Chernobyl, the little girl has found an unstoppable fortress.